also throughout to get that road to 270. You can't just focus all that effort in one or six different dates. Meredith, there were remarks that were made to the Economic Club of New York by Donald Trump. He was talking about tariffs. He wanted to cut capital gains taxes. He wanted to impose tariffs on, I think, imports. But then he's asked about what he would do to make childcare more affordable. Listen to what he said.
Childcare is childcare. Couldn't, there's something, you have to have it. But those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth. But growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars. And as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in.
I've had two children in childcare. It is not just relatively expensive, it is expensive. What did he mean by that? Did you get a sense of how he intends to make childcare more affordable?
Well, Donald Trump said that childcare is important, but his answer really gave zero specifics on how exactly he would address it. And a big part of his speech today at the Economic Club was talking about tariffs. Trump has been a big fan of tariffs. His team says that it will spur domestic production, but there's a lot of criticism from economists who say this would actually fall on consumers. And he was trying to say, it seems like in this answer that these tariffs, the money that's raised from it, could somehow go towards offsetting the cost for childcare. But the woman who asked that question said she was disappointed in his answer because it was so meandering and there wasn't a clear answer to what she wanted.
But you got to have that answer, Brian, on issues like this.
He needs to work on that answer. I mean, it's not the first time he's heard that question. We've dealt with that question. In fact, even in 2016, childcare was a major component of the 2016 campaign and part of his administration. He clearly needs to work on that answer. But I would point out, he's having this economic speech, talking about what he's going to do to improve the economy, talk about what he's going to do to bring inflation down. Single-handedly, the best thing he can do to help with childcare is drive down the cost of everything, whether it's whether it's childcare, which is driven up. It's just like, I was used to the interruption.
I understand that.
I'm used to everybody interrupting. But it's what you can do is by driving down these costs on everyday products, by dealing with inflation. That's ultimately going to drive down the cost of childcare. I think that's what he was trying to say. He clearly didn't articulate it. He needs to work on it. But I think we can all agree if we deal with inflation, that will drive down the cost of childcare. But there's other components he needs to do, as he did in 2016 and 2017.
Before you breathe, hold on. I want to play for you in a second because speaking of Angela, I know you'll have a response to this. Senator J.D. Vance also spoke about the idea of child care, and one of the things he said was have grandma and grandpa help a little bit more. Look at some of the social media posts and responses to this. I mean, one tweet says, "You are aware that many grandparents can't afford to retire. What episode of Leave It to Beaver are you living in?" Another one said, "Need health care? Call in the grandparent. Problem solved. My parents, when I sent a text on a Friday, meme of Obi-Wan Kenobi, of course, the text, it's a trick. Send no reply." This can't be the reaction.
Well, it was
from
the
Senator
reaction.
Vance and Trump.
Well, and the other part of what he also said was that, maybe we need to be looking at some of the regulations about, the people who are providing the child care. Go and sell that to parents. Maybe, certainly you probably don't need a master's degree, but I don't think parents are going to buy the idea that you want someone with lower qualifications taking care of your children. And to Brian's credit, they need a better answer. Here's the other reason, though. It's part of the modern post-COVID economy. So much of what Donald Trump talks about is not only devoid from reality, it is devoid from the reality of the American economy now. Even people who do stay home need childcare. We learned that in dramatic ways during COVID when we saw kids walking through, Zoom calls. So it's not just a care economy issue. It is actually an economic issue where you have some families where one person's working just to pay for childcare. So they've got to show they're more in touch with how people are living.
I would say all policymakers have to do something with respect to childcare. I mean, it's when my parents, when I was growing up, my mom stayed at home. My dad had the full-time job. My mom stayed at home. She was able to raise us, being involved. That doesn't exist for the vast majority of families anymore. Here in DC, we're lucky enough to make a decent living. I still needed to get childcare, and it's expensive. And let me tell you something: the most important thing about childcare is finding that right person that when you leave the house, you don't have to stress. The vast majority of people can find qualified people for childcare. We've had unfortunate luck over the years, but we've had bad childcare, and we've had great childcare, and it's a huge burden when you don't have good childcare, and it's even bigger burden when you can't afford it. And these are real stresses to families that we need to resolve. And it's not just the Republican Party; it's all parties need to figure out how to drive down the costs that didn't exist, that the high cost of everything that didn't exist 4 years ago.
Meredith, we're talking a lot about, I mean, we hear about the term economy, and I think people mostly think about things like tariffs or thinking about, our global economy and beyond. Most Americans are thinking about their personal budget and pocketbooks. And yes, I still say pocketbook as opposed to purse and a pocketbook. And I'm wondering, Meredith, when you think about how both campaigns are addressing the personal economy versus the more global and Federal Reserve aspects of it, how do you bridge the gap?
Well, I think what voters want to hear is these candidates coming to them and being personable and understanding where they're coming at and understanding the stresses that Americans are facing every day. And while we've seen improvements in the economy, when people are going to the grocery store, they're still feeling the stress when they're in the checkout line, their budgets are crunched. And so when they hear candidates talk about, Trump talking about tariffs or, Harris talking about her tax plan or whatever, they really need to bring it home and remember that for these people, they want to understand how this is going to help them when they're at the checkout line.
That's the fundamental question. Everyone, thank you so much. And hey, thank you.